All right, we are live here with Top Trades. I'm back with Enrique. It's hot out, not just outside, but it's hot in the market right now. Stuff is,
It's 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 hot in the Middle East. I mean, it's hot everywhere. So,
yeah, it's
you
always hot
know,
there, right?
yeah, it's been a little bit hot in the last 10 days. How about that? So,
They'll sort it out. Give them another 4,000 years. They'll figure it out.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, so we had kind of a crazy geopolitical weekend, and we went from oh my God, it's the beginning of World War III to, okay, I guess that's it. It's over. And the market responded accordingly. I mean, for me, the big clue about everything being okay was the fact that futures on Sunday really didn't care. We had this huge noise machine talking about World War III, and then futures open and stocks are barely down and crude's barely up. And then we saw what happened on Monday, where market moves higher and crude gets crushed. And so the market's saying all is well, and it really wasn't panicking in the first place.
Well, look, I think I wrote a note a while back that was called price over narrative. And the whole concept is, there's a very common thing in technical analysis trading that says narrative follows price, meaning that the stocks move and then people go, oh, it's a Tuesday and it's off because it's a Tuesday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, well, I would point out a couple things. First off, the market in the previous 10 days prior to Monday had actually sold off something like actually 6 of 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
So while it wasn't down a lot, it had been kind of a one-way market. But the second thing, and this is going to be a big part of the message of what I'm looking at right now, I have talked so much about these incredible breadth and price indicators that we've seen in the last 45 days out of the tariff tantrum, where you have the largest fall in the VIX in the history of the VIX. You have the sixth largest 45-day move in the stock market. I mean, those people who are on the power hour with Maverick have been beaten over the head with like 50 tables, but like they are all lining up to say that the market has an incredible base under it. One that I shared last week is we are actually having a record year for the last 25 years of the intraday average price movement higher. So we are averaging something like plus 35 basis points from the open to the close, believe it or not. So I guess my point is the market does a pretty good job of fishing out what's real or what's not. And you have to respect the price. Like me deciding that Iran is a big deal for the market and then the market disagreeing with me, I tell you who's going to win. Like,
Yeah.
you got to listen to the price. So I think we just continue to see these breadth indicators, all of that, but I'll come back to one last thing. And I don't know if this is unpopular or not, but, we did something very unusual in the power hour last week. Nick, I usually don't talk much about politics or geopolitics, mostly because I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. I'm only interested in if I think it's going to really impact, our ability to trade or how we're trading. But I said, I didn't think Iran had any moves. And this was before
Yeah.
before the US bombed them. And they kind of didn't have any moves. The only
Yeah.
move they had left is, hey, we're going to send some missiles your way,
Yeah.
and so maybe we come out of this and it's actually really good. I don't know. That's unpopular to say,
Sure. I
and
get it.
who the heck knows? But I mean, that's what the market's telling us. And you know what? The nice thing about being a trader is we can change our minds tomorrow. Price will change the narrative if it does, and we'll react and trade differently. But in the meantime, bull market on, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you can see here, like, I mean, with this gap higher today, SPY is finally taking out 600 and those all-time highs, they're right there. They're right there. And it's summertime too. I mean, I think it was me and you who discussed this, but I feel like this year is very similar to 2020 in that we have starting the year in Q1 with all-time highs, and then we have a man-made disaster or quasi disaster. I know COVID happened, but like our reaction to it was what caused that.
Yeah.
And so then we have the big drop, we have the V bottom, and now we're back here in the summertime, coming back against those all-time highs again. It's starting to feel like, we have retail in control of this market. We have all these momentum stocks popping off left and right. There's just a lot happening right now.
And we might have interest rates cuts, building coming out in the next few months. I mean, that's actually been building the last few days.
Yeah, that's true.
That's been very interesting to watch. You had two of the Fed governors come out and say, that they think that it's appropriate to cut in direct opposition to Powell. Now they're both Republican nominated and probably positioning to be the next, chief.
To get the chair,
I think there's a lot of interest. I think there's a lot of good analogies. The thing that I'm going to find most fascinating is that, so at the Maverick, just like you, we've been doing great. We've just had trade after trade after trade, but it has been interesting because I'm doing a lot of things that are not necessarily my core bread and butter. That doesn't mean I'm not great at them, because we've been crushing it.
Yeah.
It just means that we're not seeing a lot of pullbacks in uptrends, because nothing's going down. Okay.
Yeah.
I think when we get into this earnings season, it's going to be a super target rich environment. And the reason I say that is that back in Q1, going into the reports, all the analysts brought their numbers down because of all the big macro uncertainty. But then the companies reported Q1 and numbers were fine because nothing actually happened in Q1. And the companies kind of said, and I have no idea what's going to happen in Q2. So the earnings revisions look like this S&P chart, so to speak.
Yeah.
When we get into this quarter, what I think we're going to see, I don't think it's going to be terrible, but there's a lot of landmines. I think there's a lot of slippage. Like there's just, when shipping did what it did, there's just going to be a lot of, I think we're going to find a lot of stocks that are in really great trends that have asserted themselves that are going to be just fine, but there's going to be a lot of sloppy quarters. And, for what I do, that is absolutely, the best environment is great companies, great charts, sloppy quarter, people freak. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be an interesting 6 weeks, and I'll leave that one last thing, because I used a word that I don't know that we've ever actually said on here, is fun. Look, bull markets can be fun.
Sure.
Stock market can be fun. You should try to do it, figure out a strategy that's enjoyable for you, in addition to making you money, that you actually, is satisfying. So I'm excited for earnings season, but I always am, because it's the best time of year for traders, the worst for investors.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me too, because like you were saying, we didn't really see this tsunami of guidance being pulled and like bad numbers coming in with all the tariff scare. But then in the summertime, like you said, it's ripe for somebody to be missing big, or at least like disappointing in some way. And seasonally, that makes sense to me too, because how nice would it be to see those pullbacks that you like to see in those strong uptrends, where you have a stock that's gapping down 10% and then it mills around a little bit and then it starts moving higher in Q3, Q4.
And I don't think it's going to be, the nice thing about it is I don't think it's going to be an issue of the world came to an end for these companies. I think it's just going to be like, damn, Q2 was a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And so, you're going to see, and so here's the challenge. And this is another thing about, price over narrative. People will often ask me, well, the stock says, if this data point happens for a stock or the market, what will the stock do? And I say, well, show me the chart of the stock going into that data point. Because stocks that are super overbought, pull up a name, Okta, OKTA. We've traded this one a bunch.
Yeah.
I actually love this as a trade right now. This company crushed numbers, but didn't crush by enough, and the stock got destroyed. But had they reported in April what they reported in June, the stock would have been up 20%, not down 20%. So that's the setup that I think we have going into this quarterly report. The stocks mostly don't look like Okta. They're straight up.
Yeah.
And, you just need a little sloppy and everything will be fine. Like, it's not like anything's wrong with these companies. But yeah, I'm excited, and I'll share one other thing too that I was thinking about earlier. Like, what kind of message would I have for investors? I Bull markets are funny because you can make so much money in a bull market that you could never make in a normal market. And my view is you should actually get more aggressive, but perhaps tighten your stops, something like that. Meaning that we're entering into a period, and it's been building now, where you're just starting to see stuff like what's happened to the rare earth stocks. We've been talking about quantum, where you can just kind of position, and then boom, you're up 50% in a day. We'll talk about Circle in a second, as another example. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need to take advantage of that. You need to get a suntan while the sun's out, okay? Because it ain't going to happen in the rain. You just need to be careful and wear the right amount of sunscreen, and that's your stop loss and risk management. And right now, I'm trying to get more aggressive. That's the challenge. Is I push myself to say, how do I take advantage of these periods that we only see, one out of every 5 years or whatever it is. So, and I think that's what investors should be doing.
Yeah, got to make hay while the sun shines. Well, you mentioned Circle, and we have to talk about this today. My knowledge of stablecoins, and let me zoom in a little bit here to get this IPO, in focus. My stablecoin knowledge isn't that great right now. I know there's a lot of hype surrounding these. Davis wrote a really good piece.
Yes, excellent piece
that came out. It was a good primer for me in the Million Mission. But what's your take on something like this? Not necessarily the Circle IPO. Maybe you have some thoughts on that, but just the stablecoin hype in general right now. Where do you see this going?
Well, I'm very intrigued by it, to be honest, because and everyone knows I worked at Stansberry MarketWise with Porter, and Porter has a free e-letter out there. Porter Stansberry, and he's got a whole thesis about. And so here's one level of the thesis. The thesis is that stable coins are much more efficient and better economics for consumers, and therefore they're going to displace bank deposits. And remember that when a bank, and I'm getting in the weeds here, has deposits, it has their money deposits and loans, they don't have to hold treasuries, right? They don't have to hold like 1/10 of what their capital is. Stable coins need to be backed 1-to-1. So there's this like disruptive conspiracy theory kind of thing floating out there that Besant and kind of the idea is, we're going to move everything to stable coins, and it's going to basically move all these dollars from the banking system over to stable coins, which is great when you've got $37 trillion of debt that needs to be refinanced. Okay.
Right.
Now, it's like most of these things, like quantum computing and like SMR, small modular reactors. It is all true directionally, but it's certainly not true in magnitude and velocity. Okay. So, I'll just say this, is that I think that this is going to be one of those aha moments that we have. So like there was a ChatGPT aha moment. I mean, whatchamacallit, AI's been around for decades. Okay. Sure. And it's been developing. It's been like AI only popped when all of a sudden people had this stupid application that they could ask dumb questions to. And now it was in their day-to-day life. Okay. Sure. I'm a big fan. I think we've talked about full self-driving. I bought that Tesla. I love the full self-driving. There's going to be, Tesla taxi thing just happened over the weekend in Austin. I think there are going to be millions of people, tens of millions in this country that experience full self-driving in the next 18, 24 months. And it's going to be this massive aha moment. Lastly, I'll put on that list, I think stable coins. I think that, most folks haven't used them. They haven't had the need, but they're going to find out that like it's a better way to move cash. And I'll give you the one quick example that's just the no-brainer is, and this probably doesn't apply to most people on this call, but moving cash, for foreign nationals or whatever, people sending money back home that are immigrants or just have family that live abroad, that you have to go through Western Union, you have to jump through all these hoops, et cetera. With a stable coin, you just move it. I send wires. I run a small music business. and I have to send wires. For one weird reason, we're with like Regions Bank, and to send a wire with Regions Bank is just the worst experience ever. It's just insane. You literally could take a stable coin and just, it's dollars that I own that I can basically go onto Coinbase and transfer over to you. Now, so let me just say the last couple of things about this. The reason why there's so much excitement, I think, is this is a huge wave that's coming. Circle is in a very unique position for it. Now, I wouldn't touch Circle stock with 1,000-foot pole here. I'm going to talk about it in a second. It's a huge short squeeze. If you've made money on Circle, sell 60% of your stock now. This moment, pause the broadcast, and then let the 40% ride. You're going to thank me. Okay, I guarantee you might not thank me in a day or a week, but you're going to thank me. But it's happening for a reason, because this is very real. Now, I think what we're also seeing, and we've got an awesome idea for breaking profits that we're going to be publishing next week, is that, like this happens a lot, people are extrapolating that, I'll use the Google AI example. People think that AI, there's a thought process that Google's going to lose all their search revenue because of AI. Okay, ain't going to happen. That isn't how this is going to work. Likewise, I think that there are 4,000 banks out there that are smaller banks that people like to bank with. Like, they actually like that. I don't like Regions because I have to do that, and I'm annoyed by Chase. But people like their local bank. But those banks are going to be able to use stable coins and get the utility, et cetera. So I think it's this giant wave that's moving through, that's emerging. Everyone on this call, within 36 months, you're going to have a stable coin experience if you haven't already. I think it's going to be very transformative to a lot of areas and very disruptive. I don't think it's going to drive Visa, MasterCard, and Bank of America out of business, but there's going to be plenty of winners and losers. What we're dealing with right now, though, is there's only so many pure plays, and Circle is like the purest of the pure plays. Yeah. And that's why you get this excessive enthusiasm. But let's come back to one thing with super speculative stocks, right? We talk about this all the time. Is pull up. We were talking about rare earths, but pull up. Go ahead, pull up MP. Which is the Mountain Pass. This is your charts look different. You're using the bar charts. This was an example of a rare earth stock where you had a nice big base to buy it, and then it's popped. This is kind of like Quantum Junior at this point. But my point is, you want to try to position yourself in these names before they pop. But when you make 100% in a week, cash in 55 or 60. That's how you crush a bull market. Get your setups. You make a quick 100%, take out 60%, let the rest ride, and look for the next setup. And that's, like when I look back at what I did in 99, 2000, what I did in 2007, 2008, what I did in 21, that I'm like, that's how I really crushed it in the bull market and survived. That was how you did it. So I think this is going to be filtering through, like, stable coins is going to join the pantheon of AI, quantum computing, et cetera. And I think we're literally in week one of it, in terms of how this feeds through into the stock market.
Well, you got the perfect timing of the IPO too, like you said. Like, no pure plays out there, and it feels like this is the zeitgeist. This is the moment where people are grabbing onto this idea and really running with it. And I really like what you said too about taking profits during periods like this, because when you have a market that's red hot, it's very easy to fall into this trap of just buying things, and they're going up a little bit, or maybe they're just going up with the market and all of that, and then just sort of letting that happen. And then you're just sort of performing with the market instead of, like you said, crushing the market. You really want to be in the strongest of the strong during periods like this, because it's not going to last forever, like you mentioned. And if you want to outperform, you got to be in those outperforming names, and not just look back at the end of the year and say, well, I just did basically what the averages did.
Well, I use my stupid suntan analogy, but like the cool thing about bull markets is they enter into a phase, and it's 1 of 5 years, where you can buy stuff and it goes up 200% in a month. Okay. Yeah. For 80% of the time, that's not the market, right? 20% of the time, the market's going down. The other 60 stuff is going up, but it's not doing that. But then 20% of the time, you get the crazy in there.
Yeah.
And learning how to trade the crazy. I remember the internet bubble. I remember when Yahoo went public and what Yahoo did. There's people on this call like I remember AOL. I remember what was like InfoSeek. All these things, and I didn't make a dime off of any of them. Okay, because I was stuck in. Well, I made a little bit of money on Yahoo. I was stuck in a world where I was just thinking about the company and not the stock. And I was like, I couldn't get behind the valuations. But as we moved through 99, 2000, I became better where I said, hey, I'm identifying repeatable situations where there are 50, 100, 200% returns that if I trade it right, get in the base, take my double, take 60, 70% out, and then let the rest ride, I'm just crushing it. And then, by the way, by the time we reached March of 2000, I didn't see those opportunities again for 7 years, right? But in 99, we crushed it. So you need to take advantage. You need to be aggressive, actually. It's aggressive with extreme discipline. It's the same way if you're going to drive your car 90 miles an hour, that's fine. You just need to make sure you're doing it in the right environment, and you need to make sure you're on point, okay, that you know what you're doing. But it's a lot of fun driving your car 90 miles an hour. This is a market where I think you can drive your car 90 miles an hour. You just need to make sure that you're on point and take advantage of these situations. So coming back to stable coins, I think there's going to be what I think is going to be cool, and the name that we're putting in Breaking Profits is one of these, is that there's a lot of subtle things that are going to happen with stable coins that people are going to be like, oh, wait, that's a stable coin play. I had no idea. Boom. And the stocks are going to move. So, I've always in my career been good at like kind of fishing out, embedded plays. You want to have a nice combination of the pure plays and the embedded plays. But, so like I actually see on here, someone was talking about coin. I'm going to just throw out here, coin prior to the IPO owned 14% of Circle, just so you know. Coin also has a deal where they get like 100% of the interest revenue from USD until 2026 or 2027. So Coin is actually a Circle play. Yeah. Kathy Woods is today selling, because we can see what she's doing. She's selling Circle, and guess what she's buying? Coin and Robinhood. So, there's also a rotational trade and these things are out there. But, we're in a nice target-rich environment, which was after, a month of being in a very non-target-rich environment.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I'm a big Robinhood fan. This coin breakout was really beautiful. I didn't catch it right here last Wednesday, but it's bumping up right here against these December highs. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing took a break up here. There'll be times to get into something like this, but I don't think this is the time necessarily for this particular play. And
well, you have RSI at the bottom. We're trading on RSI of 76. I just think it's high. No, but that was the what they call the Genius Act. Where they Congress passed a bill basically establishing the game plan for stable coins and all that. But I'll tell you, we're starting to see, and you were talking about this before because we were talking about crypto. When the Trump administration came in, out of the gates, they were all firing all cylinders, pro crypto, etc. And all the crypto, Bitcoin ran, everything ran. And then there was sort of this around the inauguration, a pause. Pull up Bitcoin as a perfect example. There was a pause as I think they were just busy. They had a lot of things. They had a lot of things that happened with the Trump administration, right? Since it started. And now they're getting this legislation is pushing its way through. And I think it's dawning in the market that the initial response, and I'm going to make this call. I think that Bitcoin's 125, 130 by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Is the initial move was the right move. It's just, it wasn't going to go straight up because they needed time to get through. And now we're seeing all these different moves play through. So, look, I would pick your spots, believe it or not, looking at these charts. So I look, I love Hood, but I would probably take a little bit of profits on Hood. I think
Sure.
Coin's got lot of upside to it, but I wouldn't jump in right now. What the most attractive, we'll talk about, I'm looking at my charts here. We'll talk about Ethereum in a bit. I think Bitcoin's extremely interesting right now.
Yes.
Look at that chart. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to steal your thunder,
No.
because maybe you're getting ready to recommend it, but that looks like a Greg Guenthner special there, right? This goes to again, I don't want to front on you, but I feel like this is going to trade to 115, and I'm going to see the buy from you, And so I think there's a really interesting, I think crypto's getting some good momentum behind it.
Well, I really like Bitcoin. I really like Ethereum right here too. I like it especially because I love it when you see these false breakdowns in
That's
crypto.
what we're talking about.
I feel like that's when they really start to roll. Especially you look at a chart like Ethereum, which we all remember. We were all talking about this big snapback move, and it's been trying to base out. I mean, it broke above its 200-day. It's declining 200-day, slightly declining 200-day, briefly, back in earlier this month, and then it went right back into its range. And then it started to look like it was going to break down over the weekend, and now it's back in that range. I feel like that's always kind of the sweet spot for the coins. It's like, okay, you suck a bunch of people in early, you shake them out, and then you rip the thing. And I've seen that time and again in crypto. And so I look at a chart like this and I'm like, yeah, I'm really starting to like how this is shaping up. But I mean, I love what you're saying too. I would go as far as to say that I think you're being conservative saying that Bitcoin's going to be at 125 at the end of December. Maybe it's going to be even higher than that by September.
Well, I'm on record. I think it goes to 1 million.
That's not conservative.
No, I mean, I have a 5 to 10 year time frame. Like,
sure. Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah. So, but no, but I got to tell you, I haven't looked. I've been traveling, and then just catching up. I was in England for a week, and just kind of, I went to Stonehenge and Bath and all these places. So I wasn't looking at all my charts. These Ethereum charts, Ethereum and Bitcoin. Those are actually really nice charts. I hadn't realized. So my setup different than yours.
Yes.
I didn't go out and buy them, yesterday, but I would have bought them like on, and I would buy them right now. Like, I think that both of those are really smart. And let's get back to what I was saying. That is buying the speculative setup before it explodes, right? That's exactly what I was saying with MP. Is that you had this, it was at 20, 25 bucks. You could have bought it all day long. And nothing, we all knew about rare earths. It was all happening if you did the work. And I think that both Bitcoin and Ethereum, I mean, look, Ethereum's going to be 4,000, man. Like, by year end, I mean, maybe over the summer. Like, those are two beautiful trades. I'm going to have to think about those, And what's funny is last year we went out and bought Hood as a Bitcoin play.
Yeah.
When no one would touch it, and everyone was like, "Oh, Hood, that's just that degen brokerage," and we just, had done the work.
Yeah.
I actually think that Hood and Coin and Circle are going to lead Bitcoin and Ethereum here, and these are going to follow, just the same way that I said that gold led Bitcoin before. So those are two. I'm gonna figure that out. I think it's a great entry point.
I like that. Miles mentioned in the chat, and I'm not picking on you, Miles, but he's saying he missed his chance to buy a Bitcoin under 100K and should have had an order in. Well, use Enrique's rule, chop those zeros off. I wouldn't sweat 100 versus 105 and something like this. If it was a stock, it was $100, you bought it at 105. You're not really, you're not really chasing here. It's you're not in a bind. I mean, I know it sounds good and you like to be under that round number right there, but really you get hung up on it.
It's so funny because if you knock off two more zeros, and if I said to you, "Oh, the stock's $1, but now it's trading at 75 cents," you'd be like, "Oh, I want to buy it. 75 cents. I love it." But I said, "Okay, it's at 100,000 now. It's trading at 70. Oh my gosh, it's down so much. I can't touch it." These are just these things that, having done this for 30 years, I was talking to, I talked about this, my buddy in Arizona who had made like $25 million in talent or whatever. I don't know, whatever it is. We were talking yesterday, Because actually his son's going to come and work with me on some stuff. And I said to him, I go, one of the things about doing this for so long, I don't think. I just there are things that I've trained myself to do that I just don't even think about. That's one of them. Where I look at the chart and I do not. So I said price over narrative, and it is price. I look at the chart. I don't even look at the price. I don't care. It's I'm just looking at the spacing in the chart. So that's the thing with Bitcoin is don't get freaked out by 100,000. And Bitcoin's not that volatile. You're gonna see how Circle's trading and CoreWeave and tell me Bitcoin is volatile. Bitcoin is becoming
pretty chill. It's pretty chill.
Bitcoin's becoming the store of value asset play, while the crazy moves to CoreWeave and Circle and all that stuff.
Yeah, Bitcoin's growing up. He's not getting busted for partying anymore. You can rent a car now. I mean, institutions are involved. It's
the ETF flows are through the roof. This is actually the reason. I'm just going to hammer it here because I love the chart right now. Go out and buy Bitcoin. Sell your Circle. Here you go. Any of you that were lucky enough to sell Circle, sell 60% of your Circle, 65%, put it right into Bitcoin today. You will thank me. Okay, I guarantee it. The ETF flows are through the roof. They're awesome. The biggest ETF flows we've ever seen in the history of ETFs.
Yeah, so I like it. And if you're trading too, I like BITX. I like the volatility 2x shares. It's fun.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
That's a 2x Bitcoin ETF.
Oh, interesting. What's the ticker again?
BITX.
BITX. Oh, I've heard of it. I heard V as in Victor. I haven't traded this. I'm interested.
A little spicy. Add a little hot sauce.
I don't. we all the time at the Maverick, we trade leveraged ETFs. Mm-hmm. I actually love the leveraged ETFs. First reason I love the leveraged ETFs is everyone goes, "Oh, you can't trade leveraged ETFs. It's a losing battle." Well, it's a losing battle if you own them for 6 months, but I don't own things for more than 6 weeks.
Right.
And so I think I love that trade. That's the way to go. Damn, I might use that. I mean, I'm not going to use it for the Maverick tomorrow. I got a nice bread and butter trade, but that's a good setup.
All right, we got some crypto bulls here. It's Crypto Summer's back on. It was canceled.
Crypto Summer.
Crypto Summer is back on. It's 120 degrees outside. I like it.
Can I tell you one thing? I got a chuckle out of this. There was some graphic on. I read like 5 hours a day. I read like 30 newsletters. I read 6 newspapers back to back or cover to cover. There was a chart showing how much of America was hotter than Miami today. Yeah. I think of crypto, I think of Miami. And it was like basically the entire East Coast was hotter than Miami. Miami's the coolest, least humid place in the entire east of the Mississippi today. So.
I believe it. Yeah. My kids had a swim meet last night and they took a break in the middle of it to let people just get in the pool for a hot second. Just to
my kids were supposed to go to camp and they're like, "Dad, can we hang out at your place because the air conditioning?" they didn't want. We're from Arizona and we're like, we're not messing with this.
So you mentioned Kathy earlier. I mean, speaking of momentum, look at ARK. I mean,
wow.
The ARK plays are where it's at right now, and we have a lot of those echo trades that you like so much that are taking off in this group. But man, oh man, I mean, talk about your breakdown to breakout moves. I mean, what are we up now from the tariff panic lows? We're up
80%.
80%.
Which, by the way, hold on a second. I want to see something here. How much is Coinbase up in that same time? Coinbase is up 120% since the tariff low.
That's
just to put it. I mean, that's why ARK. So basically, ARK right now looks like Coin, looks like Hood, looks like Circle.
Yeah.
So
all of these, like you've talked about Roblox as a big echo trade. I own shares of Roblox. This thing hasn't gone. I mean, it will eventually, but I mean, this thing is just straight up and staying massively overbought.
It's amazing.
Something's not going on here.
But I'm going to say this over and over. I can't emphasize this enough. If you are lucky enough as a trader, not as an investor, okay? Remember, we talk about two things. I can talk as an investor too. Sell 60% of your Roblox today and go out and buy Bitcoin or buy something that hasn't moved. You're going to get these rotations in and out. You cannot have ARC, Coin, Hood, Roblox, etc. look like they do and Bitcoin stay where it is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
One of them's going to change.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to go with Bitcoin catching up with this stuff as opposed. I mean, these are probably going to go down too. But like, the most important thing you can do in a bull market is take profits. I think there was a call we did a couple of weeks ago where I must have said take profits like 4,000 times or something like that. but it was just, it frees your mind, because it feels great to have the profits. But then, if all of a sudden you're sitting in cash, you're like, okay, bring on the next one. And as a trader, activity is a positive, not a negative, right? As an investor, I one of my sayings is trade a lot or don't trade at all, right? Because what happens is they always get caught in the middle. They're like, oh, it's a trade, but it went against me. Now it's an investment.
Right. You put it in the other portfolio.
yeah. Or it's a long-term investment. Oh, but now it's trading against me. I got to risk manage it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's literally why 95%, those two sentences are why 95% of human beings are poor traders, But so the most important part to break that cycle, sell high, sell some, take advantage of it.
Yeah. And when your position is less than a full position, it's much easier to ride out anything too. Because you got, like you said, you have cash in your pocket, you're ready for the next play, all that.
And I want to share this one last thing, because I think about this a lot. I think because I grew up as a portfolio manager. I mean, I literally became a portfolio manager when I was 26 years old. I was managing $200 million. I think about portfolio structure. What you should be doing in a bull market is you come in with $100 and you're going to take that hopefully to 200, 300, 500. Well, I don't know about 1,000. We'll say $400. And you're going to be constantly taking profits as a trader. When the bull market turns, your 400 is going to turn into 300. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck. But because you took profits the whole way and you did things right and you're trading with discipline, you're still sitting on 300 over 100. Okay? Because what a lot of people do is they come into the bull market with 100, and when the market turns, they're at 150, and then they end up at 130. So that's fine. It's a 30% return on your $100 during the bull market, but you only get that sweet spot of the bull market once every 5-10 years. You should have gotten to 300 or 400. So I guess the other person lost $100, not 20, when it turned over, but they're also sitting on 300, not 100. I know this sounds kind of like all kooky, but that's literally the math that you should be thinking about, how you're judging your position sizing, your aggression, all those things. Because you're not going to get this. You're not going to get this that often. You have to take advantage of it while you have it.
Yeah. Digging back into some ARC names, that Tesla reaction was a little more than I expected to start the week. It's pulling back right now, but we talked. Was I talking with you? We
were talking about Tesla. We like Tesla. Like
yeah. I mean, I feel like again, Tesla's one of those stocks, and I know I'm wrapping it all in with ARK and everything, but it's one of those stocks where you play the emotional extremes. Like robo-taxis are never going to happen. Everybody hates Elon Musk, and now it seems like Elon. I don't know if he's back in good graces anymore, but after his little Twitter tantrum, things seem to have quieted down on that front, with everybody distracted by the Middle East right now. Now we have the robo-taxi thing happening, and it feels like Tesla's ready to run to 400 plus again.
I think Tesla's very interesting. I'll make a couple comments. I think the Tesla numbers are going to suck. Okay. I don't think that part of the situation's been fixed. They've got their Q2 volume numbers are supposed to come out here or, shortly, or I don't know, the shipped or whatever I heard on CBC this morning. But I'll make a couple other comments. You can't have Roblox and Hood looking like they do and Tesla. One of these things is going to change. It's the same comment I made about Bitcoin. It's telling you about speculation in the market. Mm-hmm. And this chart wants to set up to do that. The other thing, and remember, we're trading stocks, not buying companies, because I don't own Tesla. When I buy the stock, I don't get a Tesla. I don't get anything except the $344 of some digital NFT, which is labeled TSLA. I'm going to tell you, when this full self-driving, everyone on this call, we got hundreds of people on this call. hundred, half of you are going to experience full self-driving in the next 18 months. And when you do, it's just going to be like, it's going to be full self-driving is chat GPT to NVIDIA, and full self-driving is to Tesla. I think when people see it, they're going to just be like, holy cow. And so, although I don't think the numbers are going anywhere, I think we're going to see a lot more excitement about it, building. And one of the reasons I read so much is that I kind of get a sense for what's building underneath. And I think watch in the next 6 months, you're going to see full self-driving stories all over the place. And there's a bunch of plays, but Tesla's a great one. And I'm not going to get into an argument about economics, right? There was a conversation on CNBC yesterday, because I listened to it on the radio too. I had gone for a run. It's a really nice run. It was like 98 heat index. But the guy was like, yeah, the economics this, the economics that. I don't care. There's going to be people, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people that experience it, and they're going to go, wow, that was cool. And they're going to push to Tesla. But in the meantime, we're doing something here. Take some of your Roblox, take some of your Circle, take some of your Hood and your coin, sell it down, take some profits, rotate into Bitcoin, rotate into Tesla, rotate into these things. And you know what we're going to be telling you to do? To sell your Bitcoin at 125 and sell your Tesla at 400 and rotate into the next thing. Maybe there won't even be a next thing. Maybe we're just going to then go to cash. But rotate in this market, turn that momentum into your friend.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned NVIDIA a few paragraphs back, and I think that's worth talking about right now, because I'm like you. I have CNBC on mute. I don't listen to them talk, but I do have the TV on out there, and I walk by it occasionally. And they were talking about semiconductors earlier this morning. I saw they had a bunch of the tickers up, and it feels like it was the first time in a while that they had been interested in semis. And I think I know why, because we're starting to see them break out. I mean, if you look at SMH, today with this move, we're back above those January highs, and we're getting right back up here toward those all-time highs from July. It feels like, I know I said it was crypto summer, but maybe it's semi summer too. There's a lot of plays that are shaping up and starting to look really good in this group right here. What are your thoughts on that?
I like the base, but it's recovery momentum as opposed to new highs momentum. Mm-hmm. So to your point about crypto summer, I could get behind crypto summer because I see things going to new highs. By the way, we're already in summer. I think they say summer technically starts in the third week of June. I feel like it starts in May, and it goes
Memorial Day. Memorial Day is summer. But
Memorial Day. That's what
it just started.
Anyway, so I like it. I think there's some good trades, but I don't think you have as much momentum there. It's interesting. These are nice charts. I mean, I will tell you though, like where do I think the puck is going? And I want to go, we'll talk about Talon here in a second. Someone asked. I'm actually going to be doing a presentation for an old buddy of mine. He was a contemporary of Peter Lynch, and I'm going to be doing a presentation for a conference of his. And I'm working on my NVIDIA short case that I'm actually going to, which I've talked about a lot. And by the way, we nailed it last year. We said it would go down to $1 trillion, and it did.
Absolutely.
So I like the semiconductors. I think they work. I think that you can do better. What I do think is interesting, a lot of people have talked about, we're asking about Talon. We just haven't talked about it. We've talked about Talon all the time. Is like they announced a deal with Amazon that was just an absolute home run. Okay, where they're selling out power 30 years from now. And Amazon's willing to buy power out 30 years, nuclear power. And the reason this stock is up in a straight line, this looks like Roblox, right?
It really does.
Is the reason it's doing that is because very quietly, this has reset the whole earnings stream in the future, okay? Something else that just came out, Constellation, in New York, the governor of New York said they're going to do the first new nuke in a long time. Now, don't get me started about New York and Indian Point, the nuke that they shut down in 2021. I just literally the dumbest thing ever. But these nuclear companies, Talon, Constellation, Vistra, these are companies, the best place, the people that are going to win the nuclear expansion are the people who already have the nuclear, because the best place to build a new nuke is where you already have a nuke. So I think these are really, so would I buy Talon here? I don't know. So the difference between Talon and some of these other things, Talon's actually trading, fairly inexpensively. I think this is a $450 stock. But this is kind of the flavors, right? On one end, you've got like the most extreme thing, I will quantum compute or whatever here. Here you've got other things that are benefiting from momentum. But I think the nuke thing's building. Like we talk about Oklo. Like I wouldn't buy Oklo, which I think is, well, and a lot of people traded very successfully. Oklo's another one. You should take some profits, buy it back at the 50-day, because it's going there. It's going back to 40. It's going to have a 4 in front of it. Oklo will have a 4 in front of it before you're at. I'm extremely confident of that.
I mean, yeah, that's not even that far at all, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I mean, but you say that, but it's also 25% from here.
Sure.
So it doesn't look that far on the chart, but it won't feel that way if you own the stock. And it's the same thing that happened here in January, February with these. You needed to trade them. So, but this is a bull markets. I hate the thing where people say, "Oh, this is a stock picker's market" or whatever. I'm about to say something similar, but I'm going to say it in a very particular way. This is a trader's market to be able to take advantage of this stage of the bull. It's always a trader's market first. Good traders will make money in any market. But here's one where we can, take profits on our circle and our hood and buy Bitcoin and sell that up 20, 30%, or buy BITX or, what have you, and just, rapidly rotate to better and better setups and take advantage of the vol. And I don't even think this has gotten that crazy. I mean, I remember 21 very well. I mean, I'll just one word for you. I don't know if it's a word, but NFTs. Like, just remember what was happening there. My girlfriend actually said to me the other day. She goes, "Oh, I was reading an article. Do you remember that NFT that sold for $69 million?
Was it one of those monkeys?
No, it was the Beeple guy, the NFT artist, and it was like these 20 pictures. She goes, now it's selling for $100 or something. I'm like, you couldn't actually buy that for $100. I'm sure you couldn't. But there was a stupid NFT that sold for $69 million. So I'm going to tell you, when you want to turn, so I'm saying aggression meter should be 10, but with tight stops. When you're going to want to turn the aggression meter back down is when we see NFTs selling for $69 million. Now, we're not going to see that exactly. That's not what I'm saying. But we're not there. We're not there yet. I'll tell you what I am watching, though. The canary in the coal mine. These IPOs, because we're starting, after everyone was saying there's no IPOs, nothing's working. Now it's like every IPO coming out of the gates is going to the moon. So if you were to ask me, like, I remember SPACs and NFTs, and S coins, were kind of 21. Where do I think we could see that speculation rise? It could be IPOs. In fact, I go so far to say, as a trader, if you have an IPO, I don't care what it is. It's $10. It prices at 10, opens up at 25, and stays there, and it then goes to 30 the next day. Just buy it, because it's probably going to 60 in this market.
It's tough to do. Like, I don't like to trade IPOs because I got no price history to work off of. It's like, what's it going to do? I have no idea. You know what I mean? It's brand new to the market. But in this certain environment like this, where you have the evidence of something like Circle, or like what's the one that I was talking about with there's this one, Hinge, that came out, and they have the magic word AI in their business, and you can see here what it's done. 35 to almost $48 in a week and a half right there. I mean, when you have action like this, it's like you can kind of close your eyes and buy, and then take what you can out of them.
I don't look. We're not going to recommend any of these in the Maverick, because the Maverick, Maverick's sitting at like an 81% hit rate and like a 30% annualized return since we launched it, and that was not an easy tape, Yeah, so like, totally. But my point is, I'm focused on that degree of consistency. But this is a market where you can do intelligently positioned and sized speculation can really pay off. But these IPOs are the equivalent of a meme coin, to be honest.
Sure.
Is Circle a real business? Absolutely, Circle's a real business. Is Circle a real business that's worth $100 billion? Okay, it's at 55 billion right now.
Maybe
But I'm
not
going
right
to
now.
tell you something. But hey, let me bring you back to something. Pull up Lucid.
Lucid, that's an old one.
Okay, so Lucid, when it came public, go back to when they came public. Lucid priced at not Lucid. Oh, sorry. What's the other one? No, the Rivian. Rivian. Sorry,
Oh,
that's what I meant to
Rivian.
say.
Okay.
Yeah. Rivian. Okay, Rivian
Yeah,
priced at the IPO priced at. Hold on, I'm gonna get the
hundred
data.
bucks. Oh,
No, it didn't price at $100.
that's where it
Uh,
opened. Yeah. Okay.
that's where it opened. But so I want to give you an example when we're thinking about Circle. Okay, so it priced at $78
Hmm.
on November 9th, 2021. And then the stock traded as high as 180 within the first 6 days.
Hmm.
And at that point, Rivian had a market cap, I want to say, of $150 billion. It
Yeah.
was worth more than every other non-Tesla car manufacturer on the planet combined. And then look at what happened to the stock. Now,
Yeah.
Circle's not going to do that. CoreWeave's not going to do exactly that because, by the way, Lucid, which I think is a very interesting actual company, Lucid, I just want to throw one thing out here. They have lost in EBITDA. Sorry, Rivian. I keep on getting it wrong. They've lost like $30 billion in the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
But my point is, if you want to see what's going to where all these, when I said buy, sell your Circle or sell your CoreWeave, they're going to do something that looks like Rivian. I
Hmm.
guarantee it. It is a 100% guarantee. They might double from here first. I don't know that. But you give it 6, 12 months, Circle and CoreWeave are going to they're going to look like that. Some
Yeah.
version of that.
Very unfortunate timing for the Rivian IPO too. They caught the last 4 days of the bull market right before.
I mean, they raised plenty of money.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean,
So
for anybody buying right there at the beginning. Yeah.
yeah. What company was that? There was some company I was looking at that was Rivian like that. I was looking at the fact how much cash they burnt. It was like $30 billion. Maybe it is Rivian that even though they've only burnt on EBITDA like 20 billion, they've actually burnt a total of like 35 or 40 billion or something like that. I'll have to remember what it was. But so just be careful. Take profits, folks. I'll give you one of my little pithy sayings. If you make 100% in a day, a week, or a month, sell 60%, take your profits. If you make 100% in a year or 2 years, you might want to add to that stock.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is a perfect way to understand trade a lot or don't trade at all.
And Circle is down almost 6% today. Huge bear
We're
market.
we're
Circle.
sending it down. I think it's trading. Someone said MP's trading up since I mentioned it,
MP.
and Circle's trading down. So here we are, top trades, moving markets.
We don't want to move them that much. Let's keep the crew pretty small. We don't want to be moving markets too much there. All right. We have a few minutes left here. If anybody wants to toss a ticker up to get my opinion or Enrique's opinion on it, we can do that. Anything you're interested in other than the stuff I've mentioned, Enrique, so far today?
There's just a lot of big narratives that I think are interesting. Stablecoins, nuclear, things like that. Just trying to find those, but I'm just trying to be aggressive around finding setups.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. We mentioned Okta before. There's actually quite a bit happening in the enterprise software space of like things that had a sloppy quarter, which are kind of setups that we're going to see in the coming quarter. So I think it's a rich environment. So here we got a couple here. Let's just talk GME.
I'll do quick right here. I had one for Adobe. I think there's better charts out there. This is the kind of market where you got to be in the best stuff, and this isn't the best. So I'm not super interested in it. And then you said what'd you say,
Well,
Enrique?
and let's go back to what you're saying. Adobe looks like death, man. Like declining 50, 100, 200 day, all trading below the 200. Why? You don't need it in your life. I think Adobe's a cool company. I think they probably figure out AI, but it just, it's like, why try to convince the water that it's not wet? Like, it's just not. So GameStop, we just wrote a Truth and Trends about it on, what's today? Tuesday. Go read Truth and Trends from yesterday. I think GameStop's extremely interesting here.
All right.
So, and we've made money on this stock consistently.
Also, if it's crypto summer, Bitcoin will play ball. That would be my
so GameStop. I'm just going to tell you the one thing. The piece is GameStop right now has a market cap of 10.3 billion, and they have 8.5 billion of gross cash, and they don't have any debt or interest due for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you're paying a 20% premium to their cash. Oh, and then you still get the GameStop business for whatever that's worth.
So here's Black Sky, which I always, for whatever reason, I think is Blue Sky, but I think that's a Twitter competitor. But I don't like this ticker because I want it to be BSKY, not BKSY, because my brain messes it up. But all that aside, this thing is taken off again. I think this is a Matt Inslee special because Matt has mentioned this stock a lot to me. I like it. I wouldn't buy it right here after this huge move from 11 to 17. I'd want to wait for some sort of consolidation, but I think it's a hot chart. And this could be a big runner this summer. Do you have any other specific thoughts on it, Enrique?
High RSI, I'd stay away, but I agree with you that it's building.
All right.
What else? A nice explosive base.
Credo. A lot of Credo people. I always get requests for Credo. Credo is kind of the same thing. I mean, Credo is a really nice breakout right here. I wanted to consolidate after punching through those highs from January because it's obviously extended. It's been extended for a little while here, but I mean, it looks great. It's at highs. I mean, great company, great stock. No
great earnings story. But again, I put Credo right there with Hood and Coin. I mean, this chart actually looks almost identical to the Coin chart in many ways, right? Because it's broken to a new high, but not crazy broken out to a new high. So, dude, just if you have a stock right now that has this RSI of 75, take profits. Period. End of story. And recycle them into something that doesn't have an RSI that you really like of 75. Let's look at BITX. So now you got me excited about. Was that the Bitcoin?
Yeah.
What's the BITX? Let me see the RSI is there.
50.
Great. Awesome. Sell everything. Sell 60% of everything with a RSI above 75 and put it all into BITX. Just kidding. But it kind of makes my point.
Weren't we just talking about risk management?
So again, we're talking about trade. I also said no, but you know what I started this with? I said now is the time to be more aggressive, but then also move up your stops.
Yeah.
So fine. Take your BI here. Let's do some fun with math. Take all your things 75 RSI above, sell 60%, put it all into BITX, and put a 45 stop on it, which is 15% down from here. That'll suck, but that ain't much in this market. When we got stocks, we got Circle going up, trading in 15% chunks every 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Let's see. We got one for ARM here. I mean, it's a nice looking chart. I would wait for some sort of consolidation again. See, look, what Enrique is talking about, RSI creeping up there towards 75. I mean, it's been a nice V bottom here off of those lows, but this isn't the time I'd be buying on this. Maybe this is the time I'd be selling a little bit. RCAT. What's RCAT? Is that a drone? I think that might be a drone stock, if I remember correctly. Red Cat. Does that sound like drones to you, Enrique?
I don't know what this is.
I've seen this one mentioned before. I like this chart. I like this chart a lot. This is one of those ones where it's one of those speculative names that really took off during the post-election rally and then didn't give it all back. Gave a lot of it back, but didn't give all of it back, and it's consolidating really nicely here. I like this on a big green candle.
Yeah, I like it too. This is the kind of chart you want to be rotating into. This is exactly right. A very, very nice chart. And this is
I got it right. It is a drone stock.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mini echo trade. We know people were willing to pay $14 for it in January. So I'm going to guess in the speculative market, people will be willing to pay $14 for it again.
Yeah, I mean, the speculative buyers are out there right now, and little cheapies like this, they can roll in this type of market. Knowing the market environment, this is what people are buying. Hop on board and then sell it at 14.
Well, and I guess that's we'll finish up with this. I mean, we've been very talking a lot of speculative stuff today. Intelligent speculation with discipline is the best way to make trading profits. Okay. There's nothing wrong with buying a stock for a stock and almost not even knowing what the company does. I know that sounds like heresy to folks, but you just have to manage the risk right. You have to manage the position. It's not even just about managing the risk. It's just managing, because the biggest part, the most powerful tool that you have in your tool set in a bull market is sell high. Okay. Not buy low, sell high. So you empower yourself. And again, we're trading here, so I'm not so focused on taxes and all that. We'll just leave with this. Take everything that you have that has an RSI 75 and sell some today. Go out, buy Bitcoin. I don't even know what RCAT. Go buy RCAT. Buy these things that are in this. Go buy Ethereum. Buy these things that are not as overbought, still speculative and still legitimate. And you're gonna be happy with that trade in 2 to 8 weeks, maybe in 2 days.
I like it. All right, that's a good way to close. Get some cash in your pockets. Rotate into these new speculative movers that are rolling higher in this market. It's hot out. It's hot in the markets. Cooler in the Middle East, maybe, but
a little bit. I'm gonna go for a run today too. It's gonna be over like 105 heat index. I'm looking forward to that.
You're crazy. I get up at the crack of dawn to do that stuff before the sun gets me. You're nuts.
Well, I'm the heaviest I've been in like 10 years, so I figure that'll help burn it off quick. So
all right, well, stay hydrated.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, everyone.
All right, folks. Talk to you next week.